Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing how even with, we're still a startup, we only have a few clients, and it's even with such a small sample size, I see dramatic differences between clients already.
Right.
One of the big learning curves I had, and love your thoughts on this, and is we had two clients who were training twice a week, and I was training them full body twice a week with advanced techniques because I felt that they weren't really going to failure, and I was using advanced techniques to get there, static holds, slow negatives at the end of the set, that kind of thing. And interestingly, for for a few months, I was seeing progress, right? Every workout they were improving despite the intensity level. And I thought, well, if it's working, I'm not going to, but I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we kind of agreed that if it's working, I'm not going to change anything. Because in the back of my mind, I think I need to taper this off. I need to reduce this. And what was interesting is they both ended up reducing frequency. They asked to reduce to once a week. Which I agreed to, obviously, but I did push back, and I did explain why I thought it was better to do twice. But anyway, we reduced to once, and they just feel so much better. So even though the numbers were improving, I think what was happening is they just didn't feel good because they didn't feel recovered between workouts, and that might just be individual to them and their own genetic makeup. But it's just worked better. I think they just seem to enjoy the workout more. I think they actually can train harder and more effectively with better form, and they just seem to have better mood and be kind of enjoying their life more overall. So that's my
Right.
conclusion. But just curious if you've experienced
Yeah,
that.
I mean, Lawrence, this whole which is better twice a week or once a week thing has gone on and hit predating your arrival on the scene. I mean, this goes way back. And I think there are hardcore people in one camp versus the other. And I think the better thing is to get your beliefs and ego out of the equation and look at the client in front of you and let them declare themselves. If you pay attention, you'll find out who's who. Now, you, like me, might have more of a selection bias towards the more fragile client. Galway is kind of a more rural area, like where I train clients. And for whatever reason, when you draw clients into a personal training, these are people that have probably failed any fitness regimen under their own tutelage because they're just more fragile and not as good of responders. So we're going to select out for that population somewhat. And if we try to ram them into, the New York City, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, hard driving twice a week clientele, and they're not that, it's just not going to work out. So it's better to realize that your facility is going to have a mix of different types of clients that are going to fit best in a certain frequency. And, if you wanted to parse it really specifically, it could be, any variety of frequency, not in terms of days per week, but how many days between sessions. But really, for a facility that has to run a schedule, it kind of panning out for clients to be once a week or twice a week is kind of falls within an area where you have adequate wiggle room to accommodate almost everyone. So, but I think what you did was a good thing. Initially, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the movie Weekend at Bernie's.
I know of the name, but I've never seen
So
it.
Weekend at Bernie's, these two guys go visit, I think it's like a rich uncle, and they're staying in his mansion and everything. And they were going to have this big party at the house. But it was, contingent on Bernie's permission and everything. Well, on the night before the party, Bernie dies on Friday night. But they had this big weekend planned. And if they let anyone know that Bernie died, their holiday party was off. So they spent the entire weekend dressing Bernie up and dragging him around and pretending like he was live and propping him up in the corner in the party and everything. So initially, a client that doesn't know how to push hard, that you're using intensity techniques to try to drag them to that level of intensity. I call that the Weekend at Bernie's approach. You're using intensity extenders, but really what they're being utilized as intensity demonstrators for someone that won't go there. They stop here, and you drag dead Bernie out to here to get them to a level of intensity where you can actually generate some results. And then over time, they're like, oh, and then they come over here and join you. and then you can pick up from there. So you're kind of going through all the experiences as someone that, you know, runs their own facility and is training clients, and how to deal with all the different personality types and, you know, physiologic types that are going to come through there in a way that's going to give the best result possible. But cool thing is, that's what people are paying for. They're not paying for your facility. They're not paying for Med-X equipment. They're not paying for your personal attention. They're paying for the kind of expertise that can do that with them, no matter who they are or what their tendencies are.
Yeah, that was awesome, and you're right. We do probably skew more closely to that once a week sort of ideal frequency for the type of people we get here in Galway. Although it's too early to say, really. I mean, we might end up attracting a lot of type A, hard charging types who do want to train more. So we'll just have to see how it pans out. But it's funny that you talked about how much this predates me, because I was very much aware of that in prep for this podcast. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to talk to Doug again about frequency. He's going to be sick of talking about this, but I'm glad we have
a never ending topic. And it's the hardest thing we do, you know? I mean, it really is.
Yeah. I'm glad we revisited it, because what you said there was just enormously helpful to me, and I'm sure to many of the listeners. Anything else you want to add on that before we move on to some other questions here?
No, I think just to elaborate on that, facility owners and trainers in high intensity facilities, you just do not carry with you any imposter syndrome at all. If you are someone that trains in high intensity fashion, you have all the experiential data needed to take someone that hasn't done this and deliver them the best possible result by looking at what that client's capabilities are at any given point in time, and it changes over time. So I just say have immense value and immense confidence in the value that you provide. There's the old story of the guy with a squeaky floor, and the carpenter comes in and, you know, knocks a nail in 2 times. This goes bang, bang. And then the squeak in the floor is gone, and he delivers a bill of $100. And the guy's like, you hammered 2 times and you're charging me $100. And, you know, he hands the invoice back to him. And the guy says, okay, I'll itemize it. And he goes, you know, $2 hammering, $98 knowing where to hammer. And that's what you're getting paid for, is knowing where to hammer and how to do it. And just really have confidence, because that's not found anywhere else. And I tell people when I consult with them about starting up their own studios, is like, you know, this is unheard of. I mean, you go to Gold's and you have some personal trainer. It's a workout caddy. It's some dude that follows you around and counts. What you're doing is truly high-level professional stuff. This is professionalism and craftsmanship on an epic level wrapped into this package to deliver something that's absolutely life-changing.